Well, before the break, does the Kentucky bourbon industry generate per year? $1.4 billion, 3.7, 5.9, or $8.5 billion? The answer, it is the highest today, $8.5 billion. But the industry could soon take a huge financial hit. And here's why. Kentucky producers, they give you 95% of the world's bourbon and they employ 17,000 people. But now the Trump administration considering an import tariff on foreign steel of what they call national security concerns. Folks over in Europe, they're not too happy about it, threatening to retaliate by sticking the same tariff on the U.S. bourbon industry. Last year, bourbon sales in Europe topped $654 million, and experts say the loss in revenue could kill the bourbon boom. So is there a way to protect our steel and our whiskey, for God's sakes? All right, joining me now is former Texas Congressman Dr. Ron Paul. Welcome back, Dr. Paul.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
So let's discuss tariffs a little bit. What are some of the ramifications if the president does, in fact, impose a big steel tariff on imports?
Well, first off, it's a tax. So it raises taxes on the American people because if you buy steel, you have to pass that tax along. Second thing is it should be immoral to prohibit people from buying stuff where they want to. In a free society, you're supposed to protect that, not interfere with it. So you should, if a company or you have money, you should be able to buy the best products ever. That's how things, work out for the best. But the big one that is the more practical thing that people look at, and why even non-libertarian economists generally oppose tariffs, is there is a retaliation. There's a downside. There's repercussions from it, and they retaliate and put taxes and prohibitions on our products, which is what they're hinting at right now. So, yes, there's a lot of downside. It's not part of a free market economy.
You're absolutely right, and protectionism is antithetical to freedom, yet we see it on both sides of the aisle. We see it with these imposed $15 minimum wage mandates in places like Seattle, which actually hurt the poor. And, with the steel industry, it's going to cost a lot more money for people to run their businesses and build homes and factories. So how can we shine the light of rationality in an age of populism where it's so appealing when both sides spout it?
Yeah, and I think it's not an easy problem to solve because it reflects, probably 50, 60, 70 years of Keynesian economic education in our universities. And that's why you're correct when you say it's endorsed by both sides, because I met a lot of individuals in Washington, and on both sides they endorse intervention, whether it's economic or foreign policy.
Yeah.
So it's the interventionism they endorse, but then they argue about it. For some reason, I think maybe there's going to be enough public pressure that maybe these steel tariffs won't be put on, especially if he looks at the history. It's positively amazing that they're, thinking about this. But it's always not on principle. Well, we shouldn't be doing it. No, it's, well, can we do something that's less harmful? Can we retaliate? And then we have managed trade. I don't like these managed trade agreements, and of course Trump doesn't either. Yeah. But it isn't. We have thousands of penalties and tariffs on imports today. But if somebody doesn't like it, they go to the WTO and the European Union.
Yeah, that's
it's
exactly what happened with
trade
George W. Bush when he imposed a tariff during his administration. Other countries went to the WTO and filed suit, and it was found to be illegal, and that only lasted for 2 years.
Yeah, and that's why, the bilateral agreements make more sense.
Yeah.
If we would have an agreement on lumber, say, with Canada, and nobody else is interfering, it should be worked out. And maybe there'd be a time when you really would have free trade across the borders that touch your country, not by the NAFTA. That's a political, governmental institution where some people had advantages over others. So that's why managed trade is bad. It usually endorses tariffs. They pretend it's free trade. I get accused of not being for free trade by not supporting these, but it's the same individuals who are always wanting to use sanctions and not ever trade with Cuba and this sort of thing. They're very much protectionists themselves, although they frequently will call themselves free traders because they believe in NAFTA and the WTO.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting because we've lost our vision a little bit, and thank you for your clarity always, Dr. Paul.